Hello, welcome to season 4. Go ahead and find the chat if you can. Pop in where you're calling from. My name is Mark Buckley here in Denver, Colorado, and I've got Mr. Adrian there up in Toronto, Canada, correct?
Hi, everybody.
So we see the attendees rolling in. I see the list, and we've got a couple great folks in the background. So Whitney and Kevin, and it looks like Jason as well. So your questions can be answered along the way. So again, welcome to our, what number is this, Adrian? Our third presentation for season 4.
Ooh, is it a third or a second or third? I think it's a second.
No worries, 2, 3. They just kind of throw us in the lineup right here in the middle. No big deal. So, but it looks like Vancouver and the UK, and I've got Washington State and Mississippi, and wow. So from all over, it looks like Jonathan Jennings from Birmingham, Alabama. I recognize that name, Mr. 4.5. All right. So what we're going to do as we get started here, and more folks are rolling in, is I'm going to go ahead and launch the first poll. We always like to start by getting an idea of everyone in attendance, whether you're using our sensors or doing commercial installs, things along that line. So I'm going to launch the first poll here, and we'll leave this open for a little while. Excuse me, and we'll see how that progress is. Looks like about 88% yes on the PowerG installations. So that's staying steady here, 80%, 20%. So we've got about a fifth of the folks on the call that look like they're not currently using PowerG. So that's great. We're going to let this poll go just a few more seconds. Don't want to drive you too crazy. Okay. So we've got that one done. We're going to go ahead and launch the second poll here. And today's session is about exterior or outdoor protection. So this next question here should kind of lay out what we're looking for. Are you currently using sensors in outdoor scenarios? And this is pretty much what we expected in some of the market research that Adrian and I have already done. 25% and under really kind of is about that point we'll share with you during the presentation. So pretty interesting here. And I got a few people between 25 and 50, but not too many. So I'm gonna go ahead and close this poll, launch another one here. And this one's pretty exciting for me. Let's see how exciting it is for the group out there. All 10,000 of you that are on the call. Oh, no, there's not that many. Sorry, I was reading 1,001, and I still don't believe that's the number. But I would love it if we had more people keep rolling in here as these polls are going through. So, hey, where's that fifth option there, Adrian? I don't know what a beam detector even is. Oh, wait a minute, that's the third one. That's good. Okay, so we're going to close that. I think we have maybe one, if not two more. Obviously, this is the last one that has to do with the session today. And then, of course, we're going to launch our very last poll really soon, and it's more related to what's going on in March. So once we get this one up to about 30 seconds into the presentation, we'll pull the plug yet again. And then you'll have to put up with our faces again. When you see our faces, by the way, in the presentation, there's a nice little bar right between the two that you can click and drag up and down. So you can make the presentation larger and definitely get rid of Adrian and I a little bit by going up on the screen. Okay, last one, everybody. What am I talking about in March? There we go. Wow, this is a lot of no's and undecideds. We only have about 15% of the group that says yes. So as I look through the attendee list here, yeah, welcome Tim in North Carolina. Obviously, you and Scott from New Jersey might not want to come all the way across the country. Forrest there from Washington, you can just come down to Vegas pretty easily. But wait a minute, Dave from Birmingham, the UK, not Birmingham, close to where Jonathan lives. Excellent. I'm going to close the poll and we're going to get rolling here. Thank you very much for participating. And Adrian, take it away. Thank you.
Well, hi, everybody. Thanks, Mark, for introducing me. I think for some of us, you've been here a couple of seasons with us, so you might have seen our faces before. But for those of you that haven't, I'm Adrian Apong, and as Mark told you, I'm here from Toronto in Canada. And excited to be here with you guys. I really wish I could see all of your faces up here on the screen. To tell you the truth, while I'm presenting all this stuff here, I can't even see my own face, let alone yours. But it'd be great when we can all meet in person again. But for now, I'm glad to have you all here so that we can talk about some of this stuff that is I think pretty important, considering the way that security and intrusion has gone, that we've sort of been doing the same thing for a long time, and having exterior protection on the outside of places has always been something that's come up and been requested, but it's always been a very difficult ask until recently with the PowerG lineup of detectors and the ability for us to make them work outside. All right, so if you're not familiar with PowerG, it's a technology that we released around 2014, and it was really a game changer for the way we install wireless, the things we can do with wireless, and in a lot of ways, it makes it a lot easier to transition to installing wireless devices in places that you never would have before. Like when I was in the field, it was always hardwired for commercial. As soon as we said commercial, always hardwired. And with the PowerG technology having frequencies, hopping, and encryption and great range, it's really changed that. Mark, what are the strong points for you on the PowerG?
Yeah, so interesting that you bring up some of those key points like the spread spectrum, the frequency hopping. There's an acronym on there, TDMA, time division multiple access. When you think about cell phones and how they connect to a single tower, CDMA, some people probably remember that term from Verizon and T-Mobile, code division multiple access. Well, we're using a lot of 21st century technology now embedded in such a small form factor when you think about PowerG. So I'm pretty excited to share with you these next handful of slides that we're calling out about 4 or 5 different sensors.
All right. So actually, Mark, why don't you talk about this one a little bit too? I really like your take on this.
It's interesting to think about how that poll came out, and everybody was answering how many are using or offering exterior devices on their jobs today. And so our market research, we've done some extrapolation of sales numbers, and about 3 in 10 businesses and about only 1 in 50 residences are actually offering outdoor. Now you see that beautiful graphic that we have here from alarm.com, and it talks about all of those components that you can bolt on to a job. But if you look at it, it's interior, 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 maybe something exterior like a door lock. And so what is their #1 selling exterior device? Well, it happens to be a doorbell camera, and they're very popular today, as we know. So what we really wanted to call out on this slide is let's move this bubble and let's get it out a little bit wider and let's talk about some of the protection or at least the notification that we can offer with these sensors. So Adrian, roll forward. I think we're diving right in. So go ahead. I'm excited, so you can talk about this, but I'm more than willing to grab this.
Well, go ahead, Mark. I know that you were we were talking about this earlier.
I can't help myself, and we were looking as we were putting this presentation together. We were looking at where dealers are already using the protection and the sensors, and B, where are we lacking a little bit of coverage? So there's a laundry list there. I'm not going to read out. I'm going to pull one out. I think of courtyards, and we have homes now that have these entranceways and arched entranceways that get into a courtyard, and you're hidden. And once you're in that courtyard, you now have access to doors and windows, and nobody from the outside actually can see you. And you carry that into the commercial space. And as you can see from some of the images that we grabbed as well, there's a lot of areas where if you're not actually stopping someone from entering the property, or at least notifying that that has happened, then they can just hide behind the bushes, the wall, the edge, anywhere in these kind of scenarios. Now, I always think about the military. And the US military, they'll put up 2 fences, they'll have pressure plates between the fences, they'll have razor wire on the top, but lo and behold, if you make it through those layers of protection and they've been notified, there's a 19-year-old with an M16, and they can just come out and, I'm sorry, they can shoot. We don't have that luxury. And so how do we drive more sales? How do we drive more components that you are going to be able to offer, and how do you tie it all together and notify the customer? So Adrian, sorry, I can't help myself.
No, that's excellent. That's excellent. And you know, from the big examples like that Mark was going on, to the smaller examples, like just when you have a customer with a shed out back that might have some important equipment in it, or other places like that, the technology will allow you so much more flexibility. Anybody who's trenched wire from building to building, you're going to be thinking about other ways to do that. And with the PowerG technology, like a lot of the time, there's no need for trenching. So we'll move on, and we'll share more examples as we go on. Okay, so this is a PowerG curtain motion detector. And this is one that I think could have a lot more adoption out there if people knew about these and what they can do. Basically, it's the type of detector where, if you know what a curtain motion is, it only sees a small path widthwise, but it goes out like this one, 26 feet lengthwise. And we can use it to sort of, make a, I'd say a fence or a screen, like we say here, narrow screen to detect areas, or to protect areas. And with it being an outdoor detector, we can use it to shield off one area from another. Mark, anything that stands out to you on the 9902 in particular?
There is one thing that we didn't put on this slide, and obviously, as you can tell, we're not reading all these bullet points. We hope everybody can grab them right now and kind of scribble them down, take a picture with your camera, or wait for us to post this on our YouTube page, and you can review at your own pace and your own leisure. But this detector actually has a left and a right entry. So one thing that's really neat is, depending on how you position it, you can actually allow the beam pattern to only allow activation in one direction, which I think is really neat. And the next slide, I think, coming up here, has a few real examples of applications that we may see out in the field, and places where actually feedback is already coming in to where we're using this. Now, I happen to be on a job up in the mountains of Colorado, Pagosa Springs, and we had one of our dealers from Kansas City came in and put in the system, and we mounted one of these on a tree. It's a battery operated PowerG device. We mounted it on a tree up the driveway, and we shot it across the driveway so that he would be notified anytime someone was coming down his 100 or 150 foot driveway. So I thought that was a neat application, but you can see a bunch of the other ones here too.
Yeah, I have something like that too. Here with one of the dealer's clients, they have a lot of collectibles and things like that, but they also have a nice house with a lot of glass windows down one wall. We have a lot of the stuff in there. So he found a couple of people, would come in sometimes. He'd see them, looking through the window at his stuff, and it made him feel uneasy. Now he has a nice gated place, so they really shouldn't be in it. They have to go over the fence for that or anything,
right,
to be able to do that in the first place. But it happened a couple of times, so they mounted the 9902 outside those windows, and it makes a nice beam right across. So that I don't know that they've had anybody do that since, but if they ever do and they're coming up to those windows to look in, that'll catch them.
Yep. It doesn't always need to be an alarm either. This can be a notification that someone has entered the property. So keep that in mind, especially when integrating with alarm.com, how you can set up those notifications. So what do we have next?
We have our outdoor 9312 contact here with, this is actually an awesome device. First time I had it in my hands, we were over at one of our distributors and we decided to take a walk and see how far we could get with it. And it was winter up here, pretty cold, but I walked over a full block away. We actually had a storage unit and I was walking towards the storage unit, and it got to the point where I said, well, it's still showing green here, so I'm cold. I'm turning around and coming back. Has some great features, like has the auxiliary contacts on it, so we can actually wire in something else, like if you have a special overhead door contact or something like that in an unheated building. And that's one thing. A lot of these things we say outdoor, but it doesn't necessarily mean it has to be outdoor. It doesn't even have to be perimeter. But if you have a place that needs weatherproof devices, or where you need it to be able to withstand extreme cold and things like that, then these devices work well there too.
And I'm going to call out something, Adrian, because I think there was a question talking about the IP55 rating of that previous device that we shared. And as you look at that scale, there are moisture resistance and dust resistance. This one goes up to IP66, which I think, excuse me, which I think most people are more familiar with in outdoor cameras that have more exposure, which we would expect with a gate contact and a component like this. The other detector, maybe, like I did, I put it on a tree, but it's still protected a little bit from the overhang. But in a lot of applications, we might be tucking that other detector under a little bit, and it's not as important to have that IP66. But very good call out for whoever put that question in the chat there. So we have some examples here too as well, Adrian.
I think we do.
Yeah. So gate, you said sheds earlier, gates, outdoor contact, but I love what you mentioned earlier, areas that are just not in that same temperature range that you might expect. There's a lot of warehouses that they just cannot either refrigerate down or heat up in the winter, especially where you are up in Canada. So anywhere you can think about a Connex box, because we're not going to send RF signals outside of a metal box. So how about putting the contact on the outside of that Connex trailer? So a lot of applications, and I'm sure there's a bunch of folks that can probably throw in the chat some areas where maybe they've either used this product or now that they realize you've got this IP66 -40 to a +150 sensor. I think you can come up with a lot of neat places where we can start protecting or detecting. Protect or detect. So let's move forward. I know we've got a bunch of folks that want to get out of here in the next, we got 11 minutes left.
All right, we'll move through it. The PG9994. I guess we sometimes call it the X994 because we have the different frequencies, but here 9994. It is our outdoor motion detector. It's got some good technology for keeping down false alarms, even with a little bit of movement. Tamper-proof, at least tamper protection. Has pet immunity built in. So really, it is just a solid infrared motion detector that we can use for outdoor type scenarios. Anything special on this one that you want to just talk about besides that, Mark? Or do you want to go?
No, you know, there's an outdoor camera coming up. I know we're going to talk about with the embedded camera. So uh,
You
I
want to
just
go?
flipped my camera. And what I did on my camera is I wanted everybody just to see a quick grab here of my bench. There's a 9914. It's our interior motion detector. We would expect that to be small profile. And then you can see that corridor lens motion and then the size of these outdoor cameras. So they are a little bit larger. We just want you to be forewarned. You need to make sure you follow the instructions very carefully as to how they mount either on a wall or on a pole. So we've seen some applications that way as well. So yeah, go ahead and flip and we'll show a couple areas. So, you know, the again, little courtyard, corridor, grassy area, or something that's way out in the middle of nowhere, like a boathouse. I wish I had a boathouse, but it's pretty nice
Oh,
looking there. So
we've had a couple of guys with boat houses that have put both the outdoor contact and the motions in to protect it all the way from, you know, the main house, and it's worked out really well so far. So I think you know, there's so much flexibility with these devices, which is the part I love.
yeah, you got it. So I think the next one is the one. Now we put that camera in there, and a lot of that same feature set that you had mentioned before, you know, that octa-quad. So it's actually a quad set of PIRs behind that lens, and we vary the detection distance based on the mounting height. And so we're not talking high quality video camera level. This is for verification. So you can see that line there. It's a verifiable detection. So now the central station receives that data either directly or through alarm.com. And it's got just a huge, neat, interesting lineup here, the spec that you can see. Same profile, same size. That's the actual image that I have over here that I was talking about before. And so now let's move forward. And I think we have a couple grabs as well for areas of detection. Oh, didn't even think about that one, Adrian. Fancy cars and outdoor spaces, and seeing is believing. That is so true because we want to cut down on false alarms. So
And I think some of those, you know, those solo places out there, like that gas station, you know that you're not trenching anything, and it's not easy to run wires there. So, you know, sometimes a device like this, like the PG9944, can both be security and give you that sort of the verification, so you can make the call whether there's a problem there or not.
you know it. So why don't we move on? And what do we have next?
We have the
Go ahead and grab this. Yeah.
Yeah, the outdoor Siren, it's a great device. The great thing about it is that it is battery only. It does not need AC power or anything local, which is almost always the case with other Sirens. It's pretty flexible too, in that it doesn't only just have the Siren. It can strobe on alarm, and also has some other neat features. Mark, you were talking about some of these features when we were talking earlier that you like on it. You want to talk about those a little?
One thing that came up in a presentation recently was we were talking about our IQ Siren. Nice, easy, convenient plug and play, extend your Z-Wave network. But what about when we need to assign something to a partition? So I'm really excited on the fact that all across the platforms of all the panels that we support, we have this partition assignment capability. So we can assign it to one, we can assign it to two, we can do separate sirens for different partitions, turn the strobe on for one and not the other. So all of that customization that you see in this laundry list of features, we can do per device as opposed to per panel or per site. So it's, to me, I think that's the most exciting part. Now, I know we're limited on time, Adrian, so if we go to the last couple slides here, just a reminder, we've got a couple great folks in the background answering questions. So if there are any additional pieces of information that we're just not covering, hit us in the background, find your Q&A, and allow those folks to help us out. So Adrian, what do we have here that's coming up new? Wow.
This is newly released. So, I mean, this is something that you can actually put in orders for now, but so excited about this. This is the photoelectric beam detector. So if any of you have used beams before, especially if you've used Optex beams, you know how flexible they are and how solid they are. Well, now imagine that with the PowerG technology built in. So now you don't have to run a wire out to get a signal back to the panel. And that's what we're looking at here. So some of these hard to protect areas or hard to notify of entry areas, we now have something that can tackle a lot of those situations.
And what distances do we have? Or is that the next slide here?
Well, let's take a look.
I love
it. So we're looking at the PG 9200AX over here. This is a little bit of smaller unit, and it's a two beam. So, you know, the two beams gives you additional protection from false alarms, where you have to have two beams be tripped at the same time for it to be an alarm. And this one gives you 200 feet. And you can see by the part number here, PG9350SL. We got the 350 feet here here with the 4 beams for added protection in you know, tougher environments.
Yeah, for anybody who can really be paying attention to my camera, it's probably shrunk down now. I know you don't want to look at this. You can see me testing the 350 in my basement. I don't have a 350-foot basement, but it's kind of nice when I walk through that beam and my lights pop on for me. But yeah, I've got one back there for beta testing. So there is a difference in the IP rating. That's just how they were designed, and you'll notice that when you take them apart. And that rubber seal really is different on the larger beam pack. So what else do we have for them, Adrian?
You know what, Mark? Why don't you
wrap up slide here? Right?
What's that?
I said kind of our wrap up slide here. You know,
what
we've been talking about. So
go ahead.
Interactive systems, more devices equals added engagement. So whether you're using a Qolsys IQ panel, a DSC Neo or Pro, and you couple that with alarm.com and a variety of these outdoor components that we've covered with you today, I think that gives a lot of information to your client, whether it's residential, whether it's commercial, and we want to increase that engagement because that's how we keep those clients sticky, and that's how they'll be around for the long term. So the last slides we have to share with you here are just some tools that will be part of the presentation, reminder of the Facebook group. And Adrian, I know you participate here, so once you talk about this one, I'll grab the last one, and then we can wrap up today.
Well, the nice thing about these is that on these sites, I mean, not only are you getting if you have a question, say, about a product, where maybe you need an answer and it's something complex or situational, you have access to other technicians and installers that have done things like this before that may have come across your situation and already figured out a solution or flexible way to do something. So it's nice to be able to come in onto these sites and do that kind of thing, where you have access to both people from our side on the manufacturer side and the whole community of installers and technicians.
I agree. Collective intelligence.
Yeah, you can see the list, how many members there are here. So a lot of times, if you write in a question and you word it, you know, properly so people understand, you can get responses within a minute. Other people are already chiming in. So really cool stuff here. I would, you know, encourage you to come and join up with any of our Facebook groups here.
And besides the Facebook groups, on the next slide, we do have a few links here for when you finally grab this presentation. So there's a dealer website for the Qolsys portal, and we still have it isolated from DSC. I know we're one beautiful Johnson Controls smart security solutions today, or however we may be branded going forward. But for now, we still maintain 2 separate websites. So we highly recommend that you go. The Qolsys site has a learning center. It has a knowledge base. There's a lot of things about Qolsys that you will really love. And then if you need more technical data or information on the PowerG sensors, you can jump over to the DSC side, download images for your website, and get manuals and things like that. So I highly recommend that you go that route. We like to thank you for your participation today. I think our last slide, Adrian, just says questions, doesn't it? So, of course, we left you 30 seconds to get those in, or we may have just gone over the 1 minute mark here, so we're at 12:31, and really appreciate everyone's attendance. Adrian, anything for the group before we call it a day? What's coming up next week?
Like, thank you for coming and joining us. I think we have a lot of exciting things coming down the road, so please come and join us for our next sessions too. There's going to be some really interesting stuff in there for us to cover with you guys.
Excellent. Kevin, looks like you've been handling those questions in the background. Thank you very much. Thank you everyone for your participation today. It has been great to be on here. The main thing I've seen a few times is, where can you access this recording? So go to the Qolsys YouTube page, and we tend to post those within typically 24 to 48 hours after a session, but you will find just a huge amount of additional material there that you can download and view at your own pace, and look at the pretty pictures that we had for you. So I do appreciate it. Let's see, I don't want to disconnect quite yet as those questions keep flying in, but haven't seen anyone dropping off either, so that's a nice sign. And for those that know me, actually finishing on time is it's difficult. I get so excited that I tend to talk, and it's kind of nice that here we are in this calm period, just posting a few more questions. I'm just filling in it's like an announcer. Adrian and I talked about Troy Aikman and Joe Buck, and just that banter back and forth. And they just keep talking during a presentation just because they don't want to have that dead air space. Unfortunately, I've got some coworkers that would just like me to shut up, right? Well, thanks everybody. We're going to call it a day. And again, appreciate your attendance.
All right, we'll see you next week.